Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Threadlings. Now we got it. We got the name finally. Even though we've known about this name for a while, but then we fought it. Yeah, this is we had to take a pause for a while to figure out our story. So those that are tuning in for the very first time, this is like a vlog showing the making of an animated film in Unreal Engine 5.3. And it's with a tiny team. We did one last year called The Voice in the Hollow. It's done very well at film festivals. And now this is our follow-up piece. We struggled a lot with the story on this one, but we had to take some time off to really find it. And we're very happy with where it is right now. And we wanted to make a poster for this, so that's what we did, as well as write the script during the time off. So let me actually just show a few things here. So this is one of the things we did as soon as we were finished with the script was do a poster so that we could really get a sense of the tone that we wanted. Thank you. And first from Jamaica. Thank you, guys. So the Threadlings is going to be, what is it? It's an animated horror piece as well, like The Voice in the Hollow. It's different in the sense that The Voice in the Hollow was very much inspired by like 1960s and 70s type of horror, and I think this one is inspired more by 80s. I think we're going to allow ourselves to be a little bit cheesier here. The music is going to be very different. It's going to be all synths. So it's entirely inspired by like John Carpenter's type of music, 80s horror music. You can see the logo is without a doubt like a love letter to the Dark Crystal and to Thundercats. And yeah, I'll show you guys. So this is the poster that I put together with Tran. So I knew I wanted this thing to look a certain way. Let me find some of this stuff here. So we do everything together. So I put it together, but I wouldn't have been able to do it without Tran. Tran did the beautiful font. So what we really wanted is to get this 1980s feel. And these are like the big inspirations, in particular, like The Thing and Fright Night were the two posters that I liked a lot. But I like the idea of like the two heroes at the bottom, kind of like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I liked. The National Lampoon's one that Boris Vallejo did was another one. Just kind of the same thing. He basically just took this anyway. And this kind of took it from Frazetta's Conan the Barbarian anyway. So, but that kind of feel. But the Fright Night poster, I feel, is one of the greatest posters of all time. But you can see some of this blues up here from this. You can see over here, it's totally inspired by that up on the top. And that's kind of the vibe that we wanted. Trying to find like the fonts that they would use back at the time. So grabbed all of that. Try to get that 80s feel, the folded poster. And yeah, it's basically these little guys that are made out of fabric. So when you think about like Fraggle Rock or the Muppets, they are not aware that they are made out of fabric, whereas our guys are very aware that they're made out of fabric.
Yeah.
And they're in war with the moths that want to eat them. So, yeah. Any thoughts on that, Tran?
Well, I think that's pretty good. So I like this poster. I think it was fun to do. It also helps us see, helps us actually to go, okay, this is how this is supposed to feel, because we have, like what Miguel was saying, a lot of ideas. It's very 80s inspired. We're going to go synth. just so different. And these are self-aware cloth people.
Yeah.
So like, how does that work? Like, we're seeing cute characters with this, very like monstery moth at the top. So it seems to work.
Yeah. So I wanted to break down some of the layers, but I did this entirely in what's it called? Procreate. So the thing that sucks about Procreate, and I might need to buy a new iPad for this, is I could only use like 4 layers at a time before I'd have to flatten it out. So I don't have a ton of them. Here are more like color correction layers. Let me see if I can show you. But you can see, essentially, it looks like a painting, but it's totally not. It's completely a hack. It's all, 3D put together. So the little guys are 3D, the moth is 3D, and then it's just rendered to look like 3D. Let me see where this is. Sorry, to look like a painting, not to look like 3D. I can't multitask at all. So you can see you have like the guy there. So there was no way to get it all with one single render. Trent, your sound sounds really weird, or maybe mine does too.
What do you mean? Like the noise?
Yeah.
Well,
Turn on your noise cancellation. So anyway,
I do have both those on. Echo
I had to
cancel.
turn them off.
Hello.
Yeah, I think it's that thing.
Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know if you can turn it off.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. So we just had to render this bug in multiple different poses in order to get it to work, and I ended up just painting a bunch of stuff on top. So the closer you get to it, the more you'll see like actual brush strokes and whatnot. But it's all Procreate painted on top with 3D, so it looks like a painting, but it's not at all. So you can see, you zoom in, you'll see what looks like brush strokes. That is completely faked using Procreate smudge brush, and also this tool from, I think it's Adobe, called Paint Can, and it creates like the brush strokes. So just doing that. But then on top of that, I have to go in and paint a couple of lines, and I keep those intentionally sloppy to give it more of the handheld
Plus,
feel.
you also integrated the lighting more. Like, so,
Yeah, so none of this orange was.
yeah, I did a render, and when I put it in there, I'm like, oh, it doesn't match the lighting.
So the first thing I
So-
do is like basically comp it together, like it as if I was just doing a shot. And then once the lighting is better integrated, then you could go in and fake the whole thing and make it look like it's painted. But the closer you get, the crappier the brush strokes look. But that was the point. We didn't want it to look that perfect. A lot of these 80s posters, with the exception of like Drew Struz and stuff, doesn't have the greatest stuff. On the face, I kept a little bit more like line work because I wanted that to be the focal point. So you can see when you zoom in, you can clearly see like lines and stuff like that. So all that stuff, I had to just go in and paint it. That was not in the render, and darkening certain things because that stuff just wasn't clear at all in the render. You could see it just looked like a mess. So trying to pull that out a little bit more. Actually, you could probably pull this out some more now that I look at it. So, I probably should. Probably will. So, but yeah, so that's that. And then we did the horizontal version to just to have a splash page or whatever. And that's that. Same thing, just got rid of the moth. Trent, do you want to show?
Yeah.
Do you want to show the fonts?
Okay, so I'm not like an expert typographer, so I'll show like the beginning. So like Miguel's like, why don't you do font? I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. So
That was my ugly font. That
No,
was just to show an idea.
yeah, so Miguel presented a sketch, and this was his idea, but he was like, just do whatever you want. And I'm like, okay. But there were some nice things like the S and then the letters being attached. Like we really wanted to feel like a custom design font, right? And that was like something I was looking at, analyzing, going, all right, let's have the letters like connect in some kind of way. We'll figure it out. I started looking at references, and of course the primary reference is the dark crystal. So and I'm not shy about that. We're not shy
Can I
about it.
reply to this real quick? So someone just says, how did you get on board to animate on this project? You just have to send us a message. On Instagram is probably the best. So if you send us a message on Instagram, we'll get back to you. So sorry, Tran.
Okay, so yeah, so then I started looking at the dark crystal poster, and then, you know, just trying to analyze the behavior, because I'm not an expert typographer, right? It takes me time to like analyze, look at it, and go, okay, how can I get the similar look? It's very hand drawn, right? So like the fonts aren't perfectly lined up. You know, some are bigger than others. So, you know, I'm looking at that type of stuff, and then I'm seeing, you know, how this is connecting here, and then there's that L. We do definitely like the D. Another font that we looked at was Thundercats, but I actually didn't reference this one. Although we did get comments that it looks like that, but I'm like, I don't really feel it's like that.
That S definitely has Thundercat vibes. Even yours looks very different, but this was on the mind when I gave the sketch to you. So it didn't directly affect you, but it directly affected.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah.
like kind of, they're sort of similar spirits, right? The one thing that they both do, like they have like kind of like these, you know, these lightning bolts kind of things, which is pretty neat. And the dark crystal actually has, let's see if I get a higher res one. This is higher res. It has something like that, where there's like these jagged parts kind of inserted. Like this T has this hook. I guess this is supposed to feel like paper or like a scroll. But those were things that I noted. The next thing, I started sketching it, actually, and it looked like shit. so like, all right, why does it look bad? And again, it's because I don't specialize in typography. So what I did is I started looking at, I went to this site where you purchase fonts, and I just inputted the Threadlings. And it really doesn't look like any of these, but what this does is it starts to give me ideas about like how different fonts look and similarities between different fonts. And you realize like their T's can be only done a certain way, H's are only done in a certain way, that type of stuff. So once I had kind of my references there, the first thing I did was I created like this grid. I don't know how well you can see it.
You can see it.
Right, it's kind of like a paper grid. And then I have like these blocks, right? So these blocks, I've been moving them around. But they basically let me know, like, I have to have each letter.
Which, by the way, I want to point out the fact that she's doing this in Substance Painter, which is
Yeah.
just insanity.
Yeah, I don't, because I use Substance so much. But because it was just faster for me, right? But kind of the idea is this is how much space I will have between each letter, and each letter should be around the same size, and it can be a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. And then if I kind of get the spirit of that, it will behave similar. So, you know, I started sketching that, and you can see how these kind of line up. Like the G goes inside, the S exceeds it, but most of the letters will fit into this. And just having that grid makes it so keeps me kind of like hand drawn and but organized. Otherwise, it will just turn really, really sloppy. So I have something like that, and then I did like this here, and you can see how it fits in. And I, of course, adjusted that to be a little bit smaller. But originally, it was drawn like this large, right? And then that was that. You know, it took a few tries. this was the final one. Now it's actually not quite final. The best thing once we have these letters is to create a version that's curve based. And this is this one here. So now I finally took it to Photoshop because the curve tools are just better in here. There are curve tools as a new feature in Substance, but I don't think you can just really export it. So I use like this pen tool, and you can see if I activate it. It takes me a while to like, figure out how to use this. And then every time I use it again, I forget. Because there's like hotkeys. Yeah, so
Miss Tran she's not a Photoshop user at all.
No, I'm not. I'm like,
Tran has always been terrible at Photoshop.
No, I wasn't always terrible. I just became terrible because Photoshop used to be a texturing tool, and now I don't use it to texture anymore. So it takes me a moment. I forgot how to use it already.
Remember when like Photoshop was like the most important program to know?
Yeah, it used to be. So I knew it back then. And then, because it was the only choice you had for texturing.
Yeah.
Like that was it. And of course, it's not fun to texture a 3D object like in 2D because you get seams and all that stuff. But okay, so that was it. Then I got all my letters in here. And then I passed that to Miguel. But that was the process. So yeah.
Yeah, and that was let me see if I can find something. Give me 1 second.
I do also have like inspirational photos, and the thing I didn't use any of the fonts, but these 80s like posters are like really awesome.
They're the best.
Yeah, and the Dark Crystal has like different versions. Speaking on the font, we did go through like different questions of like how once the font was designed, how complicated would it be? Like what I mean is if you look at this one, this has a gradient, and this one's much more complex. And in the coloring, it kind of feels metallic. It's like some purple breakup, right? And then we have this one that was like really like this gold metal look, which was like, I don't know how old you guys are in the audience, but this was really like when I was growing up, this was everywhere.
The chrome stuff.
Yeah, it was like, oh my God, 3D metal font. This is so awesome. So we thought about all that stuff.
The problem with that is that we didn't want to. Our guys are fabric. Everything in this world is fabric. So we were a little bit worried that it looking too much like metal went completely against our world, because our world really doesn't have that much metal at all.
Yeah, and we thought about making the font fabric. There were all these things, but I think it was too complicated. And
well, the problem is if we made it out of fabric, then we would lose the sharpness that was the whole homage to Dark Crystal.
Yeah, it would turn
for that era.
It would look really bubbly.
It could look kind of kiddie
and lumpy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the example kind of is here. So this was the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. So this was the prequel that was on Netflix. And they took the font and they modernized it. And I think it looks really nice. Like it feels like a gem. So instead of just the purple being flat, now it feels like it has like refractive properties. And it looks great. But, I kind of feel like I like this more.
It just reads better from
it just reads. Like, do you have a lot of complexity in the background of this illustration, this beautiful illustration? And then just this being simple is the best choice. So we kind of stripped that out. But we do have versions where we try to make it look metallic and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, we tried to do something like this. Let me see. Like, this is the one that we tried. We tried this. So we grabbed this and we tried to do like a blue gradient, like so. And then, if I remember correctly, we tried to like contract this thing. Maybe it was like that much. And we wanted something that maybe was more like this. which I still like.
Yeah, but I think that it was just better to be more simple.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like how 80s do you want to go?
Yeah, and the poster's not fully done. Like when we print these, if we ever print them, we still want to go in and sharpen these edges here because we don't know Illustrator, and there's a tool in Illustrator that allows you to grab the curve and expand it while keeping the sharp lines here. And Photoshop one sucks at that, so it's rounded off. And then I went in there, started drawing the edges, and it just seemed like a big nightmare. So yeah, Tran,
Yeah, is that mine?
no?
Okay.
You want to take over for a second? Let me just see what.
Okay, so let me take over. We're stuck, then I just go, okay, well, what can I do with my time? I would just try to be as productive as I can and work on the bedroom. So this is kind of the bedroom. I think I'm going to replace the walls. They don't have any windows, and might feel claustrophobic. But this is like just where it's at right now.
Well, claustrophobic is why you did it that way. The problem became that in the script we had daytime and nighttime scenes.
Yeah, and you can't tell what time of
Never
day.
know.
Oh, audio cut out.
Okay.
Because you disabled the camera.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Thanks for telling me. So basically, everything I just said just went out.
Well, you didn't say that much.
Okay, so what I was saying is that while we're working on the script, sometimes there's like downtime because the amount of time that it takes to write a script is not really technical. It's not about typing words, right? Because most people could type out a script fairly quickly. Whereas in CG, it's like more about grinding, and the amount of hours you put into it is really important. So it's just a different process. If we get stuck on the story, then I take part of my time. Since I'm not doing anything, I'm just trying to move forward on the set. And so what I've done during that time where we're stuck in the writing is just work on some of the environment stuff here. So we have a bed, right? So Cotton Mayo, which is the two characters.
Did you not show the bed before?
I don't know. Have I shown the bed?
I don't know. I think you should show it though.
Okay.
I'm just curious.
I don't remember. I don't think I made this before we took a break.
Okay.
That's, one of their beds. Cotton Mayo share the same bedroom. Here's a carpet. Here's a desk. It's quilted. It's a little bit more firm. So with this one, I tried to make it less lumpy so that you could put stuff on it. And then the walls, which again are busy.
So you can see the style is mid-century space age made out of fabric.
Yeah, and then we also have this shelf. So turn off the highlights.
My pit bull would jump in that and pop all the balls.
Well,
I don't think there's air in them.
yeah,
It's only fluff.
they're full of cotton.
Yeah.
So this was like a very simple idea, which is kind of fun to make. So, like basically all our ideas, like here's our thing. This will be a shelf. and then just put a chair in here. So the concept is, it's not too hard to design because as long as you keep everything round, that kind of keeps the shape language, right? If I try to show you some of the block-in, which I don't know if I have it, I'll have to dig up the file. Let's see, shelf. Okay, this must be the block.
Afroton says, let me see you guys. Oh, thanks, man.
I think I don't have the bed. All right, here it is. So this would be like the block-in for the shelf. Again, super simple geometry. And there's a lot of gaps, which are intentional because I know I'm going to put a quilt over this in Marvelous. So all that,
It'll get fatter.
yeah, it's going to get really fat. And so you need the gaps, right? So there's all these gaps here. But these are relatively pretty easy to model. As far as why it's divided like this, so I only build half of it, and then the other half is mirrored. The issue is when you bring into Marvelous, you can't tell where the half is because you can't see the grid or the wireframe very well. Like it shows you wireframe like this, which is really hard to work on. So if you bring it with two-tone materials, it will bring in the two tones. And I just use that as like a reference for where my center point is. So all my stuff is kind of shaded that way. And I like pink and green. I might as well choose colors that I think are kind of pretty. So they don't really have any meaning. But that's how something like that works. And then I'll show you a textured version. Of the bed. So I didn't finish it because, you know, I just haven't gotten to it because this is something that was just in between the times. Give it a moment. And let's go to 3D mode. And hopefully this will not crash. But let's give some shadows. So this is the bed texture. Let me try to hold.
That's so pretty.
Which is, you know, I like it. I think it's cute. Like I want a bed like this, or a chair. I mean, I don't. You know, the bed proportions is kind of funny.
I'm gonna make a Threadlings furniture collection when this movie's done.
So if I try to find like earlier versions of the bedroom, let's see what this looks like. Okay, so it's something like this, and then caught. So this is my block and mesh. And I tried to figure out like how big cot would look.
And this is very intentional, by the way, because there is a scene where he's laying in bed exactly like that, freaking out about what to do next.
Yeah, so originally I actually wanted this to be more spherical, but the problem is like his head doesn't fit. So there's a version of like, you know, if he was sitting, he has to be really crouched over. So, you know, he'd be like this big, like where his butt would be. And it's cutting it pretty close to the top up here. But we're like, okay, it's fine.
He's so freaking cute, this guy.
Well, it's going to look cute, right?
Yeah.
So proportionally, it's much more round, but proportionally, they're not very human proportions. So I just picture a cot laying in that. The colors, this is what it is right now. It might change. Cot does not have this color palette. Most of the characters don't. Mayo is the only one who's kind of really orangey. I don't know if it would stay like this, but it's pretty easy to just change the color afterward. The one thing I did do, I would turn off the shadows because it impacts the performance. It looks nice with it, but it's going to crash it. Is that if you look close, there's a lot of the stitching. This is done with a new tool in Substance, which I will maybe go into later, but it's super awesome, where you can do really amazing stitches really easy. And you can mirror it. So I'm drawing on one side, and then the stitching is mirrored on the other side.
That
Right.
looks so pretty.
And we're trying my best to give scale. There's things that are not accurate to scale, which is the grain of the fabric is finer, but I don't feel like it will hold up if it's too big. The other ways, it's still tiled as if it's
It
human
also has
size.
to feel like they're knitting this or they're
Yeah.
sewing this with a fabric that they would be able to. They wouldn't be doing it with a giant piece of thread.
Yeah, so we could justify like that, and then the other thing is just the stitching is a big thing. So
Yeah,
that's
just one more thing on that is that one of the things we really wanted to do on this project in particular is not get stuck on stuff like that. Like, there's moths eating little fabric, guys. It's such a stupid idea to begin with. That we don't want to get stuck on like the size of the thread doesn't make sense. Like, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of things where we're like, wait a minute, can moths do that? And we're like, who cares?
yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's not real, right?
Yeah.
We want to tell a story. And then, of course, I do want to introduce like these kind of brass metal surfaces, which was a discussion for us. Should there be any? But I was like, yes. And I had no reason other than it was a different texture. It would look nice than if everything was matte.
but minimal.
Yeah, minimal. Just on legs and then light fixtures. It would be better anyway. The other thing, once we started getting the story down, we have a new character, which he's not done yet. He looks like this right now. So, and it's not a main character. I mean, I don't know if you want to say his name.
No, he's a main character.
Well, he's not like the protagonist.
No, but he's a very important character.
Yeah.
His name is Zort,
Yeah.
and he's like in this world. If there was a Harry Potter, it would be this guy. He'd be
Yeah.
like the chosen one.
So,
But we don't follow the chosen one in our film, just for the record. We're following the biggest rejects.
yeah, he looks like Thom Yorke.
Who's Thom Yorke?
I don't know.
Look,
I don't know if you want to search that.
I'm looking.
So he went
Oh, he's a
through.
musician.
I want to see. I want to Google that.
I'll pull him up.
I definitely wasn't looking at that.
Yeah, I didn't even know he existed.
Okay. So that was one version, and then another version. This was the first version, right? And we like this version, but I feel he looked like I feel like he looks like a bully.
Well, he looks like what he was supposed to be made for. So there's a design that I did for this guy and for two of his friends for another project that we want to do, and they're supposed to look like punk members of like members of a punk band in like the 70s, right? And this guy was supposed to be the main singer. So when we said we needed this character, I was like, oh, I love this design. Why don't we use that? But it totally looked like we were shoving him in there from something else, which is exactly what we did.
You think so? I think he could fit into this world.
He could fit into this world.
I just think he looks like a bully.
Yeah, which is what he's supposed to be in the other one, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So
He looks like he's in a punk band, whereas this guy looks like he's like an elf almost.
yeah, so he's kind of to me, his design, I don't know what you guys think of his personality when you see him, but he's not readable. And he kind of like, does he look nice? Does he look bad? Does he look, you kind of don't know. And I think he's ambiguous,
Yeah.
which is intentional, right? So like if you guys look at him and you don't think he looks quite like a bad guy or quite like the hero, that's good. He has a really long neck. All our threadlings have like no neck. Like if you look at cotton mayo, they have like barely any neck, which might cause problems later because their head is so big. But I'll open up. I thought I opened this already. The clothing that I started blocking in. Right. And so now, this gives you an idea. It's not the best shading in here, but we want like this really long collar.
It's
So-
almost like he's a monk slash. Well, I guess that would be a monk too, like one of those kung fu movie monks, right? That would have the tall neck, right? He kind of looks like that.
Yeah, I took it more like a priest or something like that. But
Yeah, but he looks like the guys from the 36 Chambers. Let me see.
yeah. So this is that current block in, and it was just I went through two of them, but I think we're definitely going to go with this ambiguous guy. So, and with this outfit, and again, it's just the early stage. But we have the shape, which is good, and he's going to be quilted. He will be like really light colored, so he's going to be like white fabric, whereas Cont Mayo is like kind of peachy, and Cot is like a little bit beige, grayish. He's going to be lighter colored, and the second color on him is going to be red. So he's going to stand out intentionally too, as his
Someone
character.
says, for me, because of the robe, he looks like Scrooge. Wait, I press the wrong one.
He's another person said he's contemplating all the things.
Yeah, he is contemplating all things. That's
Yeah.
the right answer.
That's the right answer.
Mr. Sato, wrong answer. No Scrooge. Even though, if you mean Scrooge from DuckTales, then that's kind of cool. I do love Scrooge.
Yeah. But he is contemplating all the things.
Yeah.
So that's actually great to hear that. So that's where we're at on this stuff. I haven't taken that into substance, but been jumping around. I guess the first thing I would do is just, we got to get all the characters done. So I have to focus on this guy. And I'm hoping we just want to reuse topology. All our characters have so far custom topology on their face. So Mayo has his own topology, Hot has his own facial topology, and Shrog also has his own facial topology. And that's just really time consuming. So with this guy, we just want to reuse the topology. Yeah. And I guess, the reasons why the face was so specific for these other characters was just, you kind of needed it, but it takes so much time. So yeah. I don't know if you want to show other things.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a ton of stuff to show today because this is our first week back. Yeah, I mean, I could show this. Should I show this?
Yeah, I think it's cool.
So, one of the tunnels that we need to make, let me see why my Wacom pen is not working, is like a hive. There we go.
And you're using the substance modeling tool.
Yeah, well, I was going to get into that.
Okay.
So I wanted to try a different program for this, just in particular because what I really wanted to see is I wanted a lot of holes in the geometry, and even more so on another piece that I made, because I'm trying to make like these like modular pieces. But what I liked about this is that I could just come in here, right, crank up the pressure on this, and if I push in hard enough, it's going really weird because this is really...
It's probably because you're streaming.
It's taxing. Yeah, let me just close this stuff.
The streams are hard on our card.
They're brutal. I mean, we run crazy programs and we don't have issues. The minute we go to stream, everything goes to hell. But you see, if I keep pushing into this, like it does this very easily when I'm not streaming. It'll just cut right through it.
Yeah.
But you could see eventually it just literally makes a hole in the model.
I have seen it, and I've been really impressed. because that's actually not as, it's not performing as well like Miguel said. It's like taking him like
A bunch of strokes, but
a
here
bunch of
then you could just
strokes. Yeah.
soften this out, and when it's not streaming, it does it really, really fast. It'll just smooth that out. But I wanted to put in all these holes all over the place so that it feels really gross. And all of this stuff, I didn't want it to feel stampy, so I put every single one of those by hand, which has taken a very freaking long time. But I wanted it to have this kind of melted, organic feel. I didn't want it to just be whole, 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 whole. So they all have different thicknesses and simple patterns, but you can see there's a layering effect to this that I wanted to
I like how
do.
you started putting holes inside of holes.
The holes inside of holes.
Yeah, in some sections I saw that,
Yeah,
like right there.
like that.
Yeah, I like that. It is actually impressive how easy it punches the hole through.
Yeah.
Because like, if you do that in ZBrush, at least in my experience, it will take more work to do it, and you can get like really messed up mesh. That is really hard to auto remesh. So sometimes you can have like twisted meshes inside. Where this one looks like it doesn't do that. It actually like when you exported this with the topology, it was really quite clean for what it is.
Yeah.
What I mean is like in the interior in ZBrush, sometimes you get mesh that's tangled and it's all twisted and it's like insanely dirty. So this one looks like it appears like you don't have that problem.
No, and the Boolean stuff like this, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Like I could just go in and be like, oh, I'm gonna cut this off. I'm gonna cut this off. I'm gonna cut this off.
That's really cool.
And it's a hard cut. The interface could not be more simple, so I like that. But yeah, but the idea is to create these kind of modular pieces. Let me see.
And this is the moth, the enemy territory. So bad guys environment will start to look something like that.
Yeah, but the cool thing about this is like, so those holes aren't just going to end there. The idea is, let me pull this up here. So wherever there is a hole, let me go over to this. Wherever there is a hole, it would continue, but I would make a modular kind of like cylindrical piece that I could push in against that and have lights coming in through that. So you'll have like this amber light coming through, so and very atmospheric and gross and humid looking. And
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Did you save the light test that you did or no?
Yeah, I did. I'll open it.
Yeah, so it feels like I guess we got some 3D stuff done. Most important thing was us getting the script done.
Yes. Now I could just jump into 3D,
which is super important.
Yeah.
It moves things along. Like if Miguel is doing 3D, we move more than twice the speed. I feel like I know what I need to do also.
I think it's this one.
So the next step for us is characters, or for me to focus on filing any characters and then coming back.
Again, this is beyond preliminary stuff, but you could see you get that cool effect, and then you would have a cylinder back there, so it feels like it just keeps going on. And we just like the idea that it looks like there's things that could be coming in and out of everywhere.
You don't have subsurface on that, right?
No.
So it's going to probably look even cooler with subsurface.
But it's really gross.
Yeah.
The other thing is I want to have some like liquid in there, like some nasty gook stuff. So yeah, this takes a freaking long time. It's not hard to do, but it's very time consuming unless you want it to look stencily, which I don't.
We have a question. Are you going to do a table read of the script?
Uh, you know what? Probably not. What we'll probably do. I don't like putting the whole story out there,
Yeah, I
but
definitely would hate that.
I would. What we usually do. We did this on Voice in the Hollow. Is as we finish certain scenes, we'll show it with the sound and everything. And once we cast the voices, we will probably show them like reading one scene or whatever. But yeah, that's probably as far as we'll go.
Yeah.
We're just afraid to post everything on online.
Well, it would just like ruin the story,
Yeah,
right? Like, I don't know. So we don't want to do that.
yeah. So I mean, that's really all we have for this week. We'll have more as we go, of course, but yeah, just gross, nasty stuff. Let me see. I think I had another piece here. This is like the first thing I ever did, and it's not impressive by any means, but this is just where I was just playing around with
But I
the
like
hole
it.
punching side of it, and I just thought like I've always thought that CG always feels CG because there's never holes broken into things, and the fact that you could do that, I think is really cool, and I just want more of that in this aesthetic where you feel like you're
I like,
seeing through multiple.
yeah, I like how you have holes in holes because that looks more like the realistic. Whereas
Yeah,
normally, and I think it would pay off when you light it and you have subsurface scattering, you would actually see it
yeah,
or feel it. Because most of the time you're just putting holes on the surface.
yeah. But when you actually see it go through, and then you go, "Oh my God, there's holes inside of there," and the thing is, this is not geometry, right? This is voxels. So one of the things that you'll notice that is different is if I were to do this in ZBrush or Mudbox, is you're not going to get stretched geometry or like shear geometry as you push in, because it's not pushing in. It's voxels. There's no vertices per se. So
No, it
yeah,
looks amazing. So it makes me want to try that out too.
yeah, it's fun, and this is like the very first thing I ever did, but it's kick ass because you could just grab anything. So you could just go into your clay and say, I want this to be something like so, right? And then just up. Where did I put it?
I haven't tried this at all, so I don't know how to use this.
But you could just go in here and position this however you want. So you could say over here and then say, just cut this whole thing off. It's so cool that it just does that. Just boom, gone. Right?
Yeah.
That's so cool. And you see, it's a clean cut. You don't get any weird artifacts.
No, and the new interface looks really simple.
Yeah.
So I know like ZBrush can do booleans too, but sometimes it feels like, for me, kind of complicated.
Yeah.
I know some people are really good at it, and it just because I'm not as good at it. But it just feels like more because there's a feature that came in later, and it feels more like you have to work around it to get it to work. Whereas here, this was built with intention, so it just looks easier to use.
Yeah. And you could taper this stuff. You could do all kinds of things on to this piece, and then just like I even thought about making a piece that you could just like porcupine into this thing. Like instead of using alphas, you're actually using other pieces of geometry just to make all the holes. Do you know what I mean? Like you would just like kind of stick it in the middle, and then press a boolean, and it would be cutting the holes out. Do you
Oh,
see
that's,
what I mean?
yeah, I think so. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah. So right now, again, just modular pieces, and then combining them all later and making this really gross hideaway for them. So yeah. Uh, Let me see what else in terms of the script.
Well, obviously we changed the title.
Yeah,
So,
we changed the title. Yeah, and I guess we should just talk about that a little bit. So we originally were gonna make it much more about Mayo, our little character. Our
Which
funny
is-
looking guy.
Our Mayo's the orange one.
He's the one with the sword. And we just decided, let me just pull them up. So this was Mayo. And we just decided that we just weren't happy with it. And we were really, we knew we had to take some time off and get the story to be better. And it's much more like the horror film that we wanted it to be. And it's not horror, like, it's not, I mean, it does have some super dark moments, but it's more like Invasion of the Body Snatchers or The Thing mixed with Goonies and Fraggle Rock, right?
Well, yeah, I would say what you said originally, xenomorphs.
Fraggle Rock with xenomorphs.
Yeah, and I did during the downtime. I did watch an episode of Fraggle Rock, which I totally forgot. I saw it when I was little, but I didn't really watch it. But
I was a big Fraggle Rock fan.
I wasn't a big Fraggle Rock fan, but I got to see it more recently,
Yeah.
and it's you know, they're little people. They're just not made out of cloth. They look like Muppets, but they are like, I don't know, Fraggle Rock, which are creatures of some sort.
Yeah, and Tran had to watch a few 80s movies that she had not seen before.
Yeah,
So I made her do homework.
yeah. So I watched
The Lost Boys.
The Lost Boys. Lost Boys is really cool. So I watched Fright Night. Yeah.
She didn't like Fright Night.
No, I didn't like it so much. I thought Lost Boys held up much better. And yeah.
And it has the saxophone guy.
And then I did watch, which shamefully I had not seen The Thing. And The Thing is incredible.
Yeah.
It is amazing. So I really, really like The Thing. It's so good.
Yes.
So there's a lot of cool inspirations in there. But
And
it's,
obviously the Star Wars stuff.
yeah, so it's just a darker adventure story, I'd say.
Like something you would see in the 80s. It's tonally going to be, you know, more like Dark Crystal, more like Watershed Down.
Yeah.
Secret of Nim.
Yeah, and we just like, I think the thing is, we're not setting out to go, hey, let's just make this dark or whatever. It's just like, this is what we want to see. And most time, I think people would shy away, or big companies, because basically big companies do animated stuff now, right? And there's a lot of money, and they want a rated G rating. So, you know, it limits like where the story can go. Whereas we're not like thinking this has to be rated G for the general audience. We just, you know, let it go dark.
Yeah.
So that will be fun. I mean, I'm excited about it now. I think I feel pretty good about the script. So yeah, and it's now just called the Threadlings.
Yeah. Let me see if I can pull up a few other things here. Da, da, da. So this is something we had shown already, but
Just to give you a little refresher.
yeah. So we just sped this up. We did this for a presentation we did for some big time producer. But you could see just all the different expressions on our guys.
Yeah, and that Shrog did this. Shraga.
Shraga.
And we named the character after
After him.
Shraga. So the name of the character not this one, Mayo, is Shrog.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, these characters have very simple faces, but their topology is very specific. So there's no displacement mapping or anything like that. It's just a very dense mesh. I can pull it up after Miguel finishes showing this. It's a very dense mesh that has very specific flow, which is why aside from the fact that we had Shraga do it, and Shraga is amazing at what he does.
The teeth are on that guy are not final.
Let me pull this up. But anyway, the specific topology is something that a lot of these facial artists like to have in order for it to perform. But I mean, Schrager like killed it.
Yeah.
He's so good.
Yeah, if you want to show the topology, you could.
I mean, just play that one more time. I like to look at that. Like it amazes me how much he got out of this. You know, it's cool because like Miguel will usually conceptualize the character with his sketch, and then I'll be like, okay, I guess I'll interpret this, and then I get something, and then it gets passed on to our artists like Shraga and Chris, and they, you know, they bring the character to life. They take it to another level because it. Now I'm like, oh, I didn't think that this guy would do this when he frowns. So I like that.
Yeah, this guy.
His facial expression is incredible.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
So, you know, Shraga is like really, really good.
he's the face supervisor at Blur, so
Yeah.
he's pretty high end. He did Kubo and Planet of the Apes, all the facial stuff for him.
Yeah. And then the reason we refer to that is I remember back then seeing Planet of the Apes and thinking Kubo was so amazing looking.
And did he do the Michael Jackson?
He did the Michael Jackson.
The CG Michael Jackson when he went on tour.
Yeah. Which I don't know what's going on with that. So he's a, you know, master of this craft.
So
And I didn't see the characters doing this. So, you know, it's just artists adding different layers to the stuff.
so they look like puppets, but they have facial muscles. Yes.
Yeah. Don't make sense of this. They are cloth people with facial muscles. They're not really Muppets. Yeah.
Alex wrote. These shapes are also cool. Yeah, they're really cool. And what you see is like Mayo's eyes they go in different directions. So his eyes are gonna move like a chameleon because he's super weird. So there's still something wrong with Mayo, but
There's something wrong with our main character too.
I guess that's what we should say is what went wrong in the original script. So the problem with our original script is our hero is without a doubt, it's Cot. He's our guy, right? So he's a mage. He wants to be like a Jedi, and the Jedis are the ones that protect the colony against the evil moths. The problem is he has a terrible stutter. So he cannot say his incantations without stuttering. So he always is kind of like the underdog. Unfortunately for him, he's in the same class as the Chosen One, the greatest mage of all time, right? Which makes him that much worse looking because imagine being the worst basketball player next to Michael Jordan, right? So it's kind of that. He's like, crap, I really, really suck. And to make things worse, I'm always going to be compared to the very best.
Yeah.
Right? Mayo is in the same class too, but he's only in the class really because Cod is in there. He could care less about any of this. He's only in it to be with his friend. That's it. Everything else is irrelevant to him in this life. He's only in it for his best friend. And the problem is in our original one, it was called There's Something Wrong with Mayo. We were not focusing on our main character, and we were focusing on the secondary character. I mean, he is a crucial character still, but he's not the main character, right? Star Wars is about Luke, right? Harry Potter is about Harry Potter, obviously, but we were putting more focus on Hermione or Ron than we were on actually Harry Potter, and the story felt like it was kind of losing its direction. And it also became extremely exposition heavy because it was all about what is this world of the Threadlings, and we realized it was bogging down the story, and we just need to focus on their characters and the antagonist and something wrong happening in their village, which is called the Cedar. It's called the Cedar because moths hate cedar, the smell of cedar, so they live in a cedar tree.
Yeah.
And so they figure out that there's something terribly wrong that could endanger the entire colony, but no one listens to them because they are the underdogs and the stutterers, and it's kind of metaphorical that, you know, no one listens to a stutterer. My brother's a stutterer, so we wanted to put that in there, and that's something that he always would says. So yeah.
Yeah. Just to reiterate, well, obviously everything Miguel said, like when we focused the story on Mayo, our main character got lost, and also our story started getting pulled apart, and it just didn't have a proper focus. And you know, now it's different. They have a similar journey together. We kind of made their conflict have the same conflict, and it's one of the things that makes this difficult and compared to Voice in the Hollow is that Voice in the Hollow, we don't explain this world. Like the story just starts.
You don't have to.
Yeah, and they look like woodblock characters, right?
You just assume they're human.
But you
okay.
assume that they're human, and it's just a stylized thing. So you know that they're human, and you can just see from the surroundings that it's a more primitive time. It's not modern technology. There's tribes, and that's it. And then the only thing after you need to know was that there is a rivalry between two girls, and they are sisters, and they're competing for their father's affection. That's all you need to know. That's all and you don't really need a backstory for that. Like you can learn that information as you're going along with the story. So stories that have like more setup, where like in this story, right? They're not humans. It has
There's crystals.
they have crystals in their bodies. They are made of fabric. They're very self-aware that they are fabric people. That's why they're called Threadlings.
You also have to explain to some people that moths eat fabric because not everybody
Knows that.
is aware of that.
Yeah. And you can't start the story like, hey, here's two characters and here's their conflict, because they have a setup. You have to know that they are made out of fabric. You have to know that they're little people, and they're not humans, and they're not Muppets.
And they are aware that they're made out of fabric.
Yeah, that they are fabric people. So that changes a lot of stuff, because we're so used to seeing Muppets, right? Like I've seen Muppets since I was a kid, and then you see like other things that look like cloth or whatever, but they're never aware that they're made out of cloth. So that kind of like presents a challenge for us. And then the backstory really, really could bog things down. So that was a huge thing. Like, how do you simplify your backstory as much as you can, and then focus on the story of these characters, right? Backstory is like kryptonite, I think,
Yeah.
in writing. So it's just because that's where it becomes expositional. So we try to eliminate as much as we can, and I think we did, and we got into the core story, which was big for us. So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all I like. You know, I don't want to spoil. We don't want to spoil the story, because then once you see it, you kind of know everything. Then I don't know. I don't think that's good.
Yeah, I mean, it is dark. I think there's more levity than Voice in the Hollow, but the dark parts get just as dark.
Yeah, dark parts are pretty dark.
Yeah.
I'm going to share my screen again. And just to show you Schrog's topology, maybe I should do it like this. There we are. So, you know, this stuff takes time, right? I did the topology, and it's not a human, so you can't just be like, oh, just put a human head. You can see like there's a lot of flow here. I did have Schrog look at all this stuff, and then I tried to make sure that there were lines in this direction, so that he could do the snarl, and that there would be enough density across here so that there could be wrinkling. And then we have some of the brow, a lot of density around the eyes. This is how Schrog is able to get all those amazing shapes, right? It needs to be a pretty dense mesh, and you can see in here the eyelid is built in the inside. So one of the notes that Shraga did give to me on this character was this eyelid was not high enough, right? Just this mesh right here.
So the brows couldn't go up very
Yeah.
high.
Well, you need, and he did actually stretch this out, so it does get extended up when he's raising, but that is actually really deep, and it's kind of a pain. And then we have a lot of loops around the mouth. But with this level of density, he's able to get a lot of stuff. So the head is actually really, really dense. And then, if you look up here in the flow, the way I try to eliminate his head just so that it could flow all the way back down. You don't want the neck too dense, right? So I was trying to keep the neck lighter. I noticed that, sometimes the dense mesh could pinch more, right? So I also tried not to try to keep all the polygons square as possible. If I have like tight areas, it will pinch in a rig. You'll see it. So there's things like that, which takes time. And that's why, for this character, and this is the one that Miguel was talking about, this is our Harry Potter in this world. He looks like this. He's ambiguous, right? And if you're just joining in, this was a previous idea. He looks like not ambiguous.
He's coming back, this guy. He's going to be
somewhere else.
I got a cool idea for that guy.
But he's going to be this ambiguous guy. So this is our Harry Potter in this world. And we do not follow Harry Potter. I will say one thing in our story. And I don't, we're not like trying to push a point necessarily, or I don't know. It just kind of ended up this way. All the characters, Shrog is a pretty important character. He's the professor. They all have like something that is imperfect in them. So, and I think that's a more interesting story.
And I promise you, we didn't do that to make a
statement.
A statement at all. We would never write a story like that.
With that intention.
Never.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also hard. Like, if you set out to have a story with a certain message or intention, you could really find yourself writing just to try to fit that intention, and then everything else, it makes everything really bad.
Yeah.
Because it's not really natural. So, yeah.
The only intention we ever feel, and this is why we went back to redo the script, is I kept telling Tran, when we wrote The Voice in the Hollow, I kept telling her, I can't wait for people to see that spear hit her in the face, right? We get so excited at the thought of the audience seeing that moment, right? And people going like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? Like, that's what drive me. Like, I felt excited to show this. It was like a carnival barker, crazy bastard just trying to show his demented stuff, right? And I didn't feel that with our previous script, and now I feel like there's certain scenes where I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait for people to see this moment. It's gonna be so cool. So the only agenda we have is to feel that feeling, like we're like, we can't wait to show that moment to people.
Yeah.
And how disturbed it is.
Yeah, and it's one thing I would say that's quite difficult is that, especially in this, is, a script doesn't like completely encompass everything that we have in our heads, right? So the voices are in our heads, the way that these characters talks in our head, the music is in our head. There's all kinds of stuff that is in our head. So it's like really easy if you just pick up the script to think of the tone as something else, like Pixar, and it's not a Pixar movie at all. So it's hard to really convey that inside a script, right? Like, you don't want to write down like picture, this music. I mean, you could, but I don't think that would work for us. So there's always this element of we gotta just make it and then see.
There's a band that we've been listening to for like a good idea of what we want it to sound like.
Can you hum the
Not
music?
not just to say. Well, I can't play it because then you'll get a copyright strike.
Oh, that's right.
But
We can't play it.
let me see. But there, I'll put the link. Oh. It's, I don't know if you guys can click it. But I can't hum it. I'm not going to hum it. It's all synth anyway, but it's this band called Magic Sword,
It's
which is just perfect,
it's
right?
an amazing name of a band.
And there's this song that they have called In the Face of Evil, which is just perfect for this, right? Um, and it sounds like John Carpenter synth horror music, but with some fantasy to it. And that's really, when we hear that, we're like, that's the tone that we want. They also have a song called Colossus, which, again, you hear it and you're like, that's kind of, this imagery with that song is exactly what we're trying to do.
Yeah. So if you guys want, listen to it, it kind of tells you the tone a lot more.
So I don't know if you could click on this link. It's in the chat, but I would definitely click on this. These guys are tonally like what we're trying to go for. They're fantastic.
Yeah. And I became a fan of John Carpenter after watching the thing.
Yeah.
So I like this soundtrack. It feels like a little bit inspired by him.
Even though the Thing soundtrack is Ennio Morricone, it's actually the same guy that did the soundtrack for Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So I thought he usually does his soundtracks. Though.
He does, but on that one, so it's a little bit weird. So apparently what happened is they hired Ennio Morricone to do the score for the Thing, but then John Carpenter had such a heavy hand on it that it sounds just like a John Carpenter thing, and all the stuff that was not used for the Thing was reused by Ennio Morricone on The Hateful Eight. So when you watch The Hateful Eight, the Tarantino film, that score was the original Ennio Morricone take on The Thing, which was not used. And if you think about it, The Thing and The Hateful Eight are basically the same movie. It's the exact same film. It's the guys in this place in the middle of the freezing winter, right? They don't know who the bad guy is, and at the end, you end up with the two people. Basically, they're gonna die, but they're not dead yet, and it cuts with them basically about to face their fate. But it's the same film. So yeah, Hateful Eight and The Thing, both great scores.
Yeah,
So,
I liked it.
yeah.
So yeah, that's where we're at here. So we're going full steam ahead, and I'm glad Miguel is doing 3D stuff because that is, I don't know, it does more than just double the speed. Like it makes me, it wasn't like I wasn't trying before, right? But I don't know, it's just hard to explain it, but I feel like I will be twice as efficient.
I'll show another thing that I like about this, and if you go to like the warp tools here, one of the things that I thought was really cool is like when you do like a regular move, you get something like this, right? You get this nasty stretch, right? But they have this thing called the elastic tool, and you can see that when I use it, it retains the volume. So it's almost like you're rigging it. Do you see what I mean?
That's really cool. Oh, that's really nice.
Whereas if I just do a regular move,
It just gets like that.
it would get that, and if I pull this out, you would get that, but
It works like a deformer.
It works like a deformer, and it tries to maintain that volume. So
That looks so fun.
it's pretty cool, and then the fact that you could set the repetition on these.
That's nice. I really like that. And you can sculpt, it will mirror the sculpt, right?
Yeah, so everything that's going on here it's an instance.
That's really nice. I wish, yeah.
Like even that, just moving like that is kind of gross.
It is pretty gross.
It's actually, I'd be kind of cool to see if we could get something like that where the hive feels like.
Yeah. One of the things that's nice about our current workflow is we don't use any displacements on anything. We just have decimated meshes because we're taking advantage of the nanite. And that really makes things move so much faster.
Yeah, but isn't that gross? Like, look at this, like.
Actually, that's kind of cool. I don't know if that's something we should actually incorporate.
Well, you could. So what you would have to do is export it at different states here. And you could kind of just blend shape between it, and it would have this stop motion-y feel to it. But I don't know. The cool thing is we could do whatever the hell we want. If it looks cool, then it's good.
I think that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
If it was moving.
Like there, we could dictate the rules of this world. There's a scene where the moths like hypnotize some of the Threadlings, and we thought for a minute, like, wait a minute, can moths hypnotize people? And then we're like, how do we know that the moths don't hypnotize our clothing right before they eat them? Like, who the hell cares? We just do whatever we want.
I mean, and that's the tricky thing again about like making something that is like kind of hasn't existed yet. It's hard to explain.
Yeah.
I did find
this icon is funny. Sushi smart.
I did find this. I mean, just so you get an idea, like some of the inspiration. Am I sharing my screen?
You're not sharing it yet.
Okay.
Here, share.
So I don't think you can hear my sound, but this video is called Death Head's Hawk Moth Screaming. This guy is like not really, I wouldn't say cute, but they do actually like emit a scream that is kind of like intense.
You should be able to, when you go to your entire screen, just put on also share system audio. We'll be able to hear it. So turn off your share screen. Hold on 1 second. Let me share this.
My face.
Or just share.
Also share system audio. Okay.
Get video.
Sorry guys. I just went out of that.
All right, that didn't work.
No, that didn't work. Sorry guys. Yes, that was horrifying. I looked for the escape button. So that's not good. I'm sorry. Okay. In any case, it is pretty cool. It's a reference that we're looking at. And they, certain moths are really cute. Sometimes they look like Pokemon, and some of them don't. Okay.
So I guess that's it. I mean, do you have anything else?
Not so much. I mean, I do have specific things. Like I would want to show maybe that was a pretty good scream. Well, it actually was playing the scream. It was just, I guess it was just doubling.
No, that sounded like a commercial.
Did it?
Yeah, that sounded like.
I don't know what it was. It sounded, it was a commercial that sounded like a scream.
Whatever it was, trust us, it's pretty awesome. Oh, that's the other thing. We got this, because whenever we do the sound design stuff, we've been doing everything very low tech.
Oh, this is really cool.
But
you should share your
screen. They had a sale on this tool that I've been wanting to buy for a while, and it's this a bunch of plugins for Avid, which is another thing I haven't used Avid for sound, but we're gonna do it on this one. And all their tools are basically for sound design. So there's one in particular called the Dehumanizer, which is pretty incredible. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but there's like 5 plugins, and it adds up really pretty quickly. but it's a plugin just to make creature voices out of humans' voices. Pretty awesome tool. So we were able to buy this. We were able to buy a bunch of other things. There's one here in particular. Where is it? Reformer. And it's basically just like a Foley pit, right? So the way it works, which is really incredible, is you can, like I could use this microphone and go like clack, 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 right? I just made that sound. Record that sound of my own voice and bring it into this program. And now the sound that I made will trigger the sound of footsteps. And basically, if I make my sound any louder, like if I go cluck, 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 it'll make that footstep louder. So you can kind of art direct it with your own voice, and then it triggers different sounds. So you can have that affect the step sounds, but also trigger like moving fabric. So now it kind of feels like it's completely synced with the movement of the character. So it's pretty incredible.
It is pretty incredible. Like when you could be working on the edit, watch the edit, make the sound according to what you're seeing. So the
Yeah.
timing is really good. Like
Yeah.
it's specific to the actions in the shot.
Yeah. So we got that, and then they have what was the other one? So they have one that's just for weapons. Oh, this is the vehicle one. It's not this one. It's a weaponizer. So this is just for weapons and magic and bullets and stuff like that. Really awesome. So we got that one as well. And Concept, which is basically just a synth. I don't want to do any of the music, but I always do the first pass of I always do the sound design, and then we pass it to someone to make it better, but ultimately they're not allowed to change anything except for the footsteps. But I want to always do all the sound design, and this is going to allow us to step up our game. But this concept too is great for like synth floors, just like atmospheric sounds. So yeah, this is going to be great. So anyway, that's it. We are back. This is all we have this week.
Yeah.
Unless you want to say something, Tran.
Well, I mean, I just don't feel like there's a lot of time, but because I'll be rushed, or I could repeat myself. But like, you know, I have specific tasks. My next thing is to pump out these characters as fast as possible so that we can get that to rigging, and then some other issues that we encountered on certain characters, final the moth, and then we'll be jumping into environments. And then, you know, we have plans, like how do we deal with environments? You know, just having Miguel do the 3D too, like how do we make this more modular and just really make it as fast as we can, I think. But
Yeah.
that will be, you know, some discussion. And then, you know, maybe bring in people, well,
We are going to bring in people.
yeah, to do this. How do I train them to show them the process? I don't think the Marvel stuff is that hard, you know, but like sometimes, like I feel like, yeah, anyone can do this.
So we definitely want to bring in people to help us on the model side. The problem is it's all marvelous stuff. So everything that's not marvelous, I'm going to do it. But the stuff that is marvelous is going to be Tran's team. So we definitely need that. And we are also going to be bringing in animators to help us. So the next big steps are casting the voices of Cotton Mayo and the Professor. I'm gonna try to cast a known actor for the voice of the Professor. I'm not even gonna say who, just so that when I fail miserably,
You guys don't laugh at us.
Don't laugh at us, but we're
But
gonna
yeah.
try.
We're going to try. I think it would be cool if we could.
Yeah,
It would be nice.
yeah,
So there's a lot of stuff that is happening. More like for me, more organizing and trying to manage and train, I guess, for some of the environment stuff so that we can kick off a team.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't think it's hard to do Marvelous, but for some people it sounds like it is. So we'll just have to figure how to get people to do stuff. But I think it'll be fine. It would just be a little bit different process. We didn't have to do that on the Voice in the Hollow because everything was like a rock, right? So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, did you see how? So they are starting to charge for Unreal,
Yeah.
but apparently Tim Sweeney said that indie films will not be affected. So it's only after a certain budgetary threshold. So that was confirmed in a tweet that he said that. So I know some people were freaking out about that. So don't freak out. Unreal's going to be free for those that are
Indie.
indie. Let me put that real quick. So,
Yes. You can't disable your camera because my audio goes down.
okay, so there it goes.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
turn off the. That's what sucks. So I turn off the camera to put the.
Or just turn off my
text
face.
stream.
Yeah, my-
Okay. Okay. So next stream is next week. So sorry about that. So what happened there is, when I put the text stream, I tried to hide our face so it would all fit, but then it unlinks the mic. So all right. So next week we're gonna go now before we break anything else. We'll see you guys. next
Sorry.
week.
Bye, everyone.
Later.